Welcome everyone to another episode of Let's Talk Special Economic Zones. I'm your host, Ainsley Brown. I am the Senior Director with responsibility for regulations, policy monitoring, and enforcement at Jamaica's Special Economic Zone Authority. In today's episode, we're going to cover step-in rights. So what exactly are step-in rights? Now, step-in rights generally are rights that the regulator, generally speaking, reserves in order to step in, as it says, step in rights, to a certain situation, particularly or namely when a developer, the person or entity charged with building out a zone and with the responsibility for running a zone, gets into difficulty or is expelled from a regime. And this will vary across regimes. Now, for some regimes, this is not an issue because the regulator and the developer are one and the same. Where that's the case, there is no step-in rights because it's one and the same. Now, the reason why there are step-in rights for the regulator is to protect the rights of the occupant, and think about it as a cascading set of rights. So you first have the developer, and through the developer, the occupants derive their rights. Now, if you remove the developer, then the occupants technically should lose their rights. But in law, there is, or by contract, there may be or could be step-in rights created so that the regulator can temporarily step in and facilitate either the movement of occupants away into a new zone, and assume, so the regulator would assume certain responsibilities of the developer to facilitate that movement. Now those step-in rights are very limited. They only occur in very limited circumstances, and the reason for this is it's a very big deal, and it's close to expropriation, and of course with that there is need for a compensation by the government. Now, the rules around step-in are going to vary per jurisdiction widely, I should say. But they do exist, and it's something that investors should be informed about and understand. And it's not about governments quietly trying to expropriate or steal property. It's nothing of the sort. It is about protection of occupants. So, for example, I'll give you an example. In Jamaica, we have those step-in right provisions, but for when there's a single entity developer, the step-in rights basically evaporate because there is no occupant to protect. So there isn't an agenda to expropriate. It is there to temporarily step in, and there's a lot of negotiations that take place thereafter. Step-in rights in particular focus on when the lands are government owned. So even if the developer is not a government agency, if the lands belong to the government by some way, shape, or form, the step-in rights are there to protect the lands that belong to the government, so that a replacement developer can be found, and in that interim, the regulator would step in and in essence fill in those shoes. The developer can be how step-in rights are exercised will depend. The developer, for example, could have been expelled for whatever reason, or the developer has chosen to scale back their investment or pull out of the country, but the occupants wish to remain in the country or even in that zone. So there would be some negotiations taking place, and in order to not have any disruptions to the occupants' economic activities and result in job losses, those rights are created so that a regulator could temporarily step in and basically normalize the situation. So if you liked this episode, please like, share, comment down below. If you want to see a future episode or suggestions, I'm very much open. So bye for now.